When I started my practice, the first thing I did was start a little mastermind group of my competitor friends who were my age doing PI cases right here in Northern Virginia and saying, why don't we get together every month, bring your cases, bring your pizza, let's just help each other figure stuff out. Make connections with other lawyers. And Bo, like if you're the estate planning lawyer, I'm curious about your business. Who's your avatar client? Like who could I send to you? And that's always the thing. How can I help you first?
Hey everyone, Bo Royal here, co-founder and CEO of Pareto Legal, marketing agency that helps injury lawyers increase their profits with digital strategy, online advertising, and analytics. You're listening to the Pareto Legal Podcast, where we feature world-class attorneys, entrepreneurs, and legal experts. And today I am joined by Ben Glass, founding partner at Ben Glass Law, a personal injury, life insurance, and long-term disability firm based in Fairfax, Virginia. Ben is also founder and CEO at Great Legal Marketing, a coaching business focused on helping solo practitioners and small law firms scale their practices to 7 figures. In this episode, we'll learn more about Ben's journey from lawyer to law firm owner to law firm coaching business owner, the common mistakes he sees small law firms make today, and more. Ben, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here, and I want to thank you again for having me on your podcast earlier this year.
Absolutely, Bo. It was fun, the Renegade Lawyer Podcast. It's a beautiful day here in the Washington, D.C. area. We're in a suburb of D.C. It's mid-September. The high school soccer season is up and running. I referee in that. I'm traveling to speak, and we have our own conference coming up. So it's always good to carve out some time for you, talk about this stuff.
I appreciate it. So, you've had a unique journey from being a practicing attorney to founding 2 different businesses, Ben Glass Law and Great Legal Marketing. Can you walk us through that transition and what inspired you to start your own law firm and then coaching business?
Yeah, so I'm not even sure it's a transition so much as adding 1 + 1 + 1 equals a lot of stuff, right? So I had a very typical journey. I just crossed over 40 years actually of practicing law. It'll be 41 years next month in October. So it's been a long time. We started, we used yellow pages and yellow legal pads. And I actually worked a pre-fax machine. So let alone pre-internet and pre-email. Worked for some good trial lawyers for the first 12, 13 years of my journey doing insurance defense work and then doing plaintiff's malpractice and personal injury work. These guys are good lawyers. They weren't good business people. Decided to start my own firm, mainly because it was a shorter commute. So I had a brilliant business operating plan. I needed a shorter commute. I was coaching 3 of my kids' soccer teams, and I was a good lawyer. So how hard could this be? Brought cases with me. It was fine for a while until it wasn't, because I didn't know anything about marketing. I didn't know anything about hire. I didn't know anything about anything except like I could try cases, right? And so struggled a bit there in the early days of Ben Glass Law. I don't know, we're about 27 years in on that deal. Along the way, discovered, hey, I need to learn how to market myself. And I didn't have a lot of money. And again, this was Yellow Pages days. You're either on the Yellow Pages or TV. That was like the 2 media. And started to look outside the legal industry because there wasn't a lot inside the legal industry to tell you about this. And you didn't have what you have today, which is lots of good coaching organizations, companies that are teaching lawyers like I was then, how to build a real business, like build a business first. And so I had to go outside of legal. I went to seminars, conferences, I joined mastermind groups, started to change the way that we marketed and grew the law firm. And then some of my mentors said, there's nobody teaching this to lawyers back then. This is potential second business. And so literally launched Great Legal Marketing over 20 years ago. And Bo, that was all about teaching personal injury lawyers how to advertise. That's what we were back then. Today is an organization that really serves the solo and small firm market across those lawyers who are not spending tens of thousands of dollars on either digital or any other traditional advertising. They're doing mostly grassroots advertising. They're serving the consumer market across the wide array of practice areas that you could do that. And they're mom and pop, and they're trying to, by and large, they're up against 800-pound gorillas. They're up against traditional industry norms. And we kind of help them knock down all of that so that they can build, our thing, my deal is I can help you build a happy life. We're going to use a vehicle of a law firm for the financial side and the intellectual side of that. But there's other things like you got to be spiritually, physically, mentally well as well. And so we're sort of branched into all of those areas. So I still full-time practicing lawyer. My practice is I do a nationwide ERISA employee benefits practice, mainly in the long-term disability space. My son, Brian, manages the personal injury side. That's pretty much confined to the state, like to Virginia, and some work in Maryland. Got about 22, 23 people under roof. Got about 7 working full-time for us out of the Philippines within that 22 or 23. And we run Great Legal Marketing. So there's 2 different organizations and we're having fun. Mostly.
So you're a busy guy, long story short. And I know that with Great Legal Marketing, you emphasize the importance of building, a lifestyle-friendly law practice. For you specifically, in addition to owning 2 businesses, you're father to 9 children, if that's correct, based on my research. You've served on boards for nonprofits. You've, engaged in like CrossFit events. That said, how have you been able to balance all of these responsibilities and passions of yours over the years? And can you share some key principles or tactics that have helped you and other lawyers achieve both, business success and like work-life balance?
Yeah. So there's a bunch layered in there. So Dan Kennedy and I just came out with a book, the 4th edition of No BS Time Management for Entrepreneurs. So that's a great book with a lot of specific strategies and tactics in it. I would say this though, Bo, like everything starts with a philosophy. Man needs philosophy to live. And mine is this, like you're in this one-way journey through life, no control over who you're born to, under what circumstances you were born. Some control maybe over how long you get, right? Based on your health habits. But it's a one-way journey. You never really know how many days you have, right? And life is meant to be lived for your happiness. Because when you are happy and you're doing stuff that excites you and you're financially secure and mentally secure and, all of those things, then the product that we produce as lawyers to the clients and the product that we produce as a law firm to the team that comes here is better than the stressed out lawyer, right? So we start with that philosophy. Now, what does that lead to? It leads to saying no to a lot. So yes, I'm busy, but by and large, Bo, the things that I do in a week, if you followed me around, are things I like doing and I'm good at. All right. It wasn't always that way. And it is sometimes, people need to know, it is sometimes still very messy, right? Because entrepreneurs make things happen, and I'm a put it in motion and fix it later guy. I don't need to know that the 100 steps are going to be executed perfectly before we put something into play. And that's the space that we play in. And so it is learning to value yourself and value your time and value your gifts that you're bringing to the world. And Bo, every single one of us has a different and unique set of gifts, interests, and talents, things that we're good at and we like doing and can usually find a market to pay for that. I think you live in that space. If somebody else is really good at stuff I'm not good at, like hammering, sawing, house repairs, like I hate that stuff. I'm no good. I'd rather pay somebody else to do it who it drives them energy, right? It makes them wealthier, and play in that space. Now, it's easy to say and it's hard to execute. Here's the key, I think. The clearer that you can define for yourself and for your family what perfect would look like, okay? Writing down, I'm going to hold up a piece of paper and a pen. Writing down, the more likely it is you are going to see the opportunities that come your way and the people that come your way and the ideas that come your way that will help you get there. And the biggest problem, Bo, is that for most people, they've never been given permission to say you have the right, maybe the duty to design your own life. Like, good grief, we just don't know how many days we have. You don't know when your last day is going to be. So let's at least go for it. It's messy, but let's at least go for it. That's my very long answer to this, because all the tactics and strategies, Bo, they won't work if you believe that you're a slave to somebody else, albeit the industry, clients, everyone else in the business does it this way, so I have to do it this way. If you believe you're a slave, it doesn't matter what we can show you with making your practice better. It's not going to be as good as if you believe you're the racehorse that needs to be doing stuff that energizes you.
It's a great list. I heard like 3 or 4 key principles. One being have a very clear vision on like your perfect life, right? Like what does the perfect day look like for you? How are you spending your time? So on and so forth. The ability to say no once you have that vision becomes, I'm sure, a lot easier. Delegating the things that you're not great at or that take away energy from you. And then making sure that the things you are spending time on are net positive for your energy. They're things that, you're passionate about, that that you can achieve mastery within. So I think that's a great list. I want to talk a little bit about some of the key challenges that you faced, in running a law firm.
Sure.
Can you talk about how those experiences have influenced your approach to legal marketing and coaching?
Well, so one of the big challenges, so I'm a personal injury attorney, right? No matter where you are when you're listening to this podcast, there's a million of us around you. And there's guys and gals in the marketplace that you're in right now who can go out and spend a lot more money than you can. So that's a big challenge. So how do we get our voice out there in a very crowded market, in a commoditized market? Because here's the thing about it, like lawyers think, oh, we're special, like, oh, we're God's gift to injured people. We're not. But we think that consumers spend all this time like researching us and making wise decisions. They don't. We've proven this over and over again. How are we going to build a practice when you're not the one spending the most in the market? Now, the guys and gals who are spending the most, awesome. Like they're going to get their money's worth. Yeah, but it can only be, by definition, one of them. And so for us, the way that you overcome that challenge has been to be known for something other than, and in addition to, oh, he's a personal injury lawyer. So all that nice stuff you said about me at the beginning of the call, right? CrossFitter, served on boards, 9 kids. That's unique. That's interesting. Tell me more about that. Soccer referee. That's interesting. Most people who know me know that I'm a lawyer, but I have this brand locally, the sportsmanship guy, the guy who opens up his office to other charities to come in and use our 42-seat training center for their own meetings and stuff. And they may not know, Bo, that I'm a personal injury lawyer, but they trust me. See, this is the thing. They trust us and the Ben Glass Law brand enough to call us. And if it's outside of our verticals, because we're very narrow, right? Our Rolodex is big and our Rolodex is trustworthy. And so how do you do that? Well, a really cool strategy that we've used forever since someone taught it to me is mailed, printed, nice, interesting monthly newsletter. That's not about the law. It's about celebritizing our team, celebritizing other local business owners, celebritizing our clients like all of our clients are sick or injured. Like they are heroes in the whole journey. Things like, doesn't cost you anything, Bo, to give the very best customer service. Forget the quality of the legal services for a moment. Be known as the firm that has the most organized, very best client experience, because they're going to remember that too. Because most people, when they deal with lawyers and they deal with most businesses out there in the world, like the customer experience is not excellent, but you remember the ones where you do get excellent service. Like, for us, like Amazon always shows up on time, if not early. Like we remember that. That's why we default in our family, we default to Amazon. It's going to get us here. So that's a couple of things. And in the mistake that lawyers make, I've done this in the past before, is you go out, for example, and you start spending money to drive leads in whatever way it is, a billboard, digital ad, whatever. You spend the money, but you don't have the infrastructure and the training in place to make sure that when your money works and they call you, fill out a form, engage in a chat, they don't have the very best experience that they're having that day. Because guess what? They already filled out 5 other chat forms at other law firms. They did. That's what has to be fixed. And it's the easiest fix because it is training, and it is people. But I see so many law firms, and I'm sure in your business, Bo, you see this as well. Like, you do your work and you get the phone to ring or the form to be filled out, and nobody's on the other end answering the dang thing. Like, and then they blame you. Like your thing didn't work. Well, actually it did work.
Right. Well, luckily we kind of vet that out in the sales process now to make sure that, if we are going to drive leads, are you going to be able to effectively, handle them, close them, refer them out if need be. I love that answer. I want to talk specifically about the decision that you made, though, to kind of position yourself as a active member of the community. Was that something that you kind of just one day was like, all right, this is kind of where we're going to double down and this is what we're going to do? Or did it kind of just organically happen where you're like, we're doing some community stuff. Let's just slap on this community oriented law firm, positioning or value proposition, and it stuck. What did that process look like?
Bo, I've been on hundreds of podcasts and interviews. No one's ever asked me that question. So kudos to you for that. Here's what it was, I think, for me. So I've always had, we are huge fans of coaching. So we have business coach we invest mightily in. We have, Brian and I and some of our other leaders in the firm have personal mindset coaches. And mine is Sammy Chong, is a great guy in Toronto, coach a lot of lawyers. Quasi business, but mostly mental, like what's going on inside your head. And this is going to sound arrogant if you don't like, if this is the only clip you see, it's going to sound arrogant, right? But it was when I came to believe that I could actually have an impact on the world by being someone who's always asking, what can I do for you first? And by being curious and learning to be really curious and unabashedly curious about other people's businesses, not so that I can go sell them things. Look, we run great legal marketing. Of course, we have lawyers that pay us to be part of our program, but I spent a lot of time with other small biz owners. I spent a lot of time with charity board leaders, being curious about their work, and from time to time having good ideas that they can take that I've maybe learned or heard about over here and bring it into their industry. Here's one. So most human beings, it's so funny, Bo, because most human beings are shy about this. And that's cultural. You're not supposed to brag about yourself. You're not supposed to seem self-important, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's wrong. I think you have this gift set, gift, talent, and interest, unique to you. And I think you were born to explode that on the world. And it's a cool endorphin rush when you help somebody. We run this program called lunchwithben.com. Like, you can have lunch with me, and the price of having lunch with me is you make sure the salad comes to my office. And we do virtual, or if you're local, you come local. I've talked to people, Bo, retired doctors who were asking me, what do I do with the rest of my life? I don't know, but let's have a chat. Let's be curious about that. All the way back down to high school, parents who bring their high school students in live to have a lunch here, just to talk about things like college choices. Do I want to go to law school at some point? And that's a huge endorphin rush. And so I've met people, Bo, I never, ever would have come in contact with. I do believe that I have changed lives. And again, if that's the only clip you hear, you're going to think this guy's an arrogant son of a gun, right? But I think the more people who believe that they have the power to change the world, one person at a time, like, now we make the world better.
So in your firm's case, though, your positioning is really just a extension of your own personal passions, the things that you ultimately care about.
Yeah. Coaching. Yes. Yeah. So another important point to make is that this is authentic. We're not running motorcycle ads and never having gotten on a motorcycle. Like, that's fake, right? We are saying, hey, I grew up here. My son obviously grew up here. We have huge tentacles in the community. And here's the other thing. 80% of our money, so it's PI and it's long-term disability, 80% of our money comes because a human being mentioned our name to another human being. They may then go through the digital course because, of course, they're going to check us out, social media, all that other stuff. Go visit the website. But that journey starts because we're not running any paid ads, right? That journey starts because a human being said, call Ben or Brian or Ben Glasslaw, or I know this guy who's a soccer referee and I think that he's a lawyer too. I think he is. Let's go look him up.
Is it fair to assume then that because you've been so community focused in your positioning, that the majority of your firm's leads and cases are coming from within a 10, 15 mile radius of Fairfax, Virginia? I forget, you might have another office. Most of the cases you're generating within, a specific radius, or is it statewide?
In the personal injury side, red car hits blue car. Yes, that's probably true. However, in the disability side, it's, I would say nationwide, but it really is eastern half of the United States. And that's a cool market because here I am probably 20, 25 years into that practice, and there still aren't enough lawyers to handle the claims, right? And so we have data in that space that says we are number one in our region, because you can go on Pacer and you can see how many cases are filed, and we outnumber numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, combine them all. We outnumber that. So now that gives us, so we have legitimate data to say we are the number one. Like there's nobody doing more of those cases in our region than we are. And we're not shy about saying that. And then a niche within a niche, Bo, because this would be important to some folks, is we've assumed the position of advisor to doctors, lawyers, CEOs, and entrepreneurs in that space because they have different issues. And so almost every week, I talk to doctors in particular from all over the country. And so we've got some sponsored blog articles on websites that serve that community at literally almost no cost. But we're the only ones. So doctors are attracted to a financial guru, and we're the only ones that are in the disability claim side. And, every once in a while, a doctor's got something going on, hands, vision, hearing, whatever. They can't do their work. And then they come to us. And so that's the power of working in a niche and creating your own niche. You created it.
Right. Well, that's a great point. I think the reason I asked that is because I see a hesitancy with certain firms in terms of like defining a niche, right? Yeah. Or like being very laser focused on their positioning, because typically that comes at the opportunity cost of missing out on other types of cases, at least in their mind, right? Because they're like, well, I want PI, I want workers' comp, I want SSD, I want all these things. Yeah. It's like in your, target audience's mind, you're going to be kind of the jack of all trades.
Yes.
Whereas they want, they probably want that specialized.
It is usually a huge mistake. So we'll get a new member. I'll go to their website. Let's just say they're a PI lawyer. So they're like us. And I see like 27 different things they do. I go, when's the last time you actually handled a nursing home case? So I never have. Well, why are you wasting time, energy, and space on your website attracting? Well, a big one might come. Okay, but you don't handle it. You don't even have the experience to handle it. Oh, but I can refer it. Okay, I get all that. But what you said is exactly right. The person then who's looking for somebody like you says, oh, there's a generalist. Like there's a person that jack of all trades, thinking of everything. And so that's usually a huge mistake. The other mistake people make, this goes back to your other question about are the cases local or are the cases statewide, is lawyers will make a mistake. They're like, oh, I want to control all of Virginia. I want you to run ads all over Virginia. Well, you don't have all the ads. You don't have all the car accidents in Fairfax County. Why don't we try to increase by, a couple of percentage points the share of the market that we have in Fairfax County within 5 miles of our office? Like we would be fat and happy if we had all of those cases. Why are we spending money to go outside of our geographic area? And so I think it's another thing that lawyers need to think deeply about and say, look, because you have limited everyone, no matter how much capital we have, it's limited, it's finite. Start thinking about, what do I really like doing? What are the cases if somebody calls like, I am the guy or I am the woman for this type of case, so that prospect can also see, oh, Bo Royal, he understands my problem. He's the guy that I need to get in his line to hire. And I hope that he'll take my case. That's what we teach lawyers to try to create in an authentic way. No one's lying, cheating, or stealing in our world, the world of people that we coach. but there's a lot of things you can do.
Agreed. I want to stick with the topic of legal marketing and ask you, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you're seeing lawyers make in their marketing strategies today? And how are you helping them correct those errors to see better results?
I think it's in working with partners. It's in working with vendors, companies like yours. If we're going to work together, we have exactly what you said earlier. Like, you're vetting the lawyer to make sure the lawyer has the infrastructure to make you look good, because you can go out and make the phone ring and the website light up. Okay. And the lawyer needs to be smart enough. The lawyer does not need to be an expert in digital marketing, but the lawyer needs to know enough to be able to have this conversation. But how will we know if we're successful together? Right. And if Bo says, I'm going to get you more likes and visitors, and more friends on whatever, Facebook, I know that's not what you do. I'm going to say, great, Bo, I'm going to pay you in likes and thumbs up emojis. Would that be cool? Like, if you get me that? No, because that's not what the game's about. The game's about making money, right? The game's about getting a client, helping the client with their problem or opportunity, and making money. So we have to be very clear. You and I have to be very clear on what the metrics are, how we're going to each hold each other accountable, because I have a part to do in that relationship. You have a part to do in that relationship. And then you need to do a really good job of like establishing and helping me, have reasonable goals and reasonable metrics so that my expectations aren't way up here while what you can deliver is, let's say way down here for the first 90 days. And then get the lawyer guy or gal, to hang in there and to play. So I think that's the biggest sort of initial error. And the second is not having systems in place. Now, look, it's a lot better today. We have all this technology that can help measure, right? Measurement is not ever going to be perfect because, again, our leads start with a human telling a human about us. But having a way as best we can to know, the consumer came through this path. Or, the consumer was coming through our path and we lost the lead. We didn't get the case that we wanted. Why is that? Let's go back and listen to the intake call. This is what we do. Let's run the transcript of the intake call through AI and have our AI prompt evaluate our team. Let's have the AI prompt listen for the questions the consumer asks so we can send that off to marketing. So we can make sure we're answering those questions in our marketing. So that's how I think the wise lawyers are thinking about this. And look, the third thing, and then I'll stop on this topic if you want. You can't look at what Joey is spending and go, I need to spend what Joey's spending. Because you have no idea what the financial stability of Joey's firm is, by the way. You have no idea what they're spending per lead. You have no idea what the customer experience is, although you can go to look at reviews and you see some of these firms. It's crazy, Bo. Like, we have firms that are out of state, no lawyers licensed in Virginia, running out Facebook ads in Virginia or participating in some of these ad schemes in Virginia. And we're picking up some of those cases now because the client signs, you get this promise of these crazy people jumping out of cars with cash in their hands, which I see every day on Facebook. And then the lawyer experience or the legal experience is crappy. And then they find out the lawyer's not even licensed in Virginia. So there's a lot there. But my point is that if most lawyers would kind of have a structure, Bo, to their thinking about this and think about outcomes first and how you and I as a partnership are going to make each other successful. Because if I do my side and you do your side, you're going to be more famous too. Right? Because now you're going to use my testimonial. And I'm going to refer my friends to you. That's where the game should be played. And I think, unfortunately, most lawyers are too busy or not smart enough, or they're just not very careful with their own money.
So to summarize some of those mistakes, and I agree with everything you said, and I've said all of those things before, common mistake is not having, clear goals, realistic goals set, not bringing on a partner that can agree to metrics or outcomes that tie to those goals or tie specifically to revenue, right? Like, you were making this funny little jab before saying like, they can get you all the likes, they can get you all the impressions you want. If it doesn't tie to revenue, why are you paying these people, right? The other thing was the infrastructure. So like having the infrastructure from an intake perspective, from an operational perspective, and then from an analytical perspective too, to be able to effectively track, hey, I'm spending X on this tactic, I'm getting Y in terms of leads, and I'm getting Z in terms of cases. That's ultimately going to enable you to track an ROI for all of your different marketing investments. And then not only that, enable you to see, maybe it's not my lead quality that's the issue. Maybe it's my intake team. Maybe I'm getting these, teed up, opportunities. And for whatever reason, my team isn't closing them, right? So you can't really start leveling up until you get some of those foundational pieces in place. So I completely agree. And I have calls all the time, sales calls all the time with folks that are like, yeah, I want to run Google ads or I want to run Meta. And it's like, okay, I get it. You're kind of bullish on this tactic right now, but I start asking questions and I realize they haven't thought through everything we just discussed, right? What is a viable cost per acquisition if you're going to start investing on Google ads every month? What is your conversion rate on the leads that you're generating through digital channels right now? What's your intake team look like? What's your intake process look like? All these questions. And I can just know within like 5 or 6 questions, like whether or not this is someone that we're going to be really able to help. So I agree completely with your list. So let's talk about lawyers that are just starting their practices. And by the way, did you want to, it looks like you want to.
No, I'm just going to acknowledge that like running a business is hard. We have chosen to play in the field of entrepreneurship. It has ups and downs and there's new learning every week. And so, you can't like decide to play in that MLB space and then not like how fast the pitcher throws, right? It's hard, which is why there's so many good, I think, coaching organizations. And, no matter where your firm is in terms of revenue and your goals, there's somebody out there who's a little bit ahead of you who can show you the next step.
Right. Yeah, I think that's really important too. And that's probably why you've had a successful coaching business, is because I think there's this idea that there's these like done for you services out there where like, oh, I pay these guys, they're just going to get me more cases. And there might be a few that are like full service, like they'll handle the lead, they'll sign it up. But like, I don't know. I feel like for the long term, it's best to have those business things figured out on your end, making sure that you have the intake team in place, making sure that you're accepting the right cases, so on and so forth. So what I'm saying, long story short, is like, you have to do the business work. You can't just be like, all right, I'm going to invest in this marketing initiative and I'm going to get leads and cases from it. You might get leads from it. You might not get cases from it. Right.
And you got to be able to deliver on the legal. And particularly if you're in a contingent fee practice, like the speed of money moving is really important. Never to shortcut what their goals are for the client. But so many firms don't have like the movement from in treatment to demand letter to, resolution of the case is way too long because they don't have those processes in place or those people either.
Right. Cash management can be a huge issue if that's not, thought through properly. I want to talk about firms that are, or rather lawyers that are just starting their practices. What would be your top 3 pieces of advice when it comes to building a strong marketing foundation for them?
100% starting the practice is I would be making connections with lawyers who I was always going to say who didn't compete with me, but I'll tell you that when I started my practice, the first thing I did was start a little mastermind group of my competitor friends who were my age doing PI cases right here in Northern Virginia and saying, why don't we get together every month, bring your cases, bring your pizza, and let's just help each other figure stuff out. Right. So we did that. I get, most people aren't like, they're too crazy to do that. They don't want to do that, but at least make connections with other lawyers. And Bo, like if you're the estate planning lawyer, I'm curious about your business. Who's your avatar client? Like who could I send to you? And that's always the thing. How can I help you first? So that's number one. And then figuring out a way to maintain contact with them, whether it's newsletter, whether it's sending, books and other small gifts, things like that, I think are really, really important. And then I would be working on making sure that my phone is answered 24/7. All right. And again, with today's technology in a worldwide economy, like there's people who can be good enough, right, to make sure my phone is answered at nighttime and on weekends. It's not going to be the same as if you would answer your phone but it helps everything from, your Google My Business profile that says I'm only open 9 to 5 isn't as good as mine, which says we're open 24/7, because we've got people who can answer that. And then I would be, you got to learn, I think, when you start your own practice, like how to be a good lawyer in your niche. And so, yes, there's a place to go and make sure you're getting those skills. And one of the big differences, especially in the litigation side and the plaintiff's contingent fee worlds where I work, so I had a lot of opportunities when I was growing up. There was a lot of trials. It didn't cost so much to try a case as it does now. And so that's a shame, but it's far fewer opportunities. So if you're a plaintiff's contingent fee lawyer and you're starting your practice, take cases to trial. Like, take your crappy cases to trial. Don't, just because you'll learn so much just by going through the experience of picking a jury and cross-examining someone, even when you're scared to death about doing it because everybody else in the courtroom will seem like they're smarter than you are. Just go and do hard work. So those are a couple things that I would be doing. I would find ways. I would also find ways to build a community, like the biz owners. So some of the things we've done, we're not doing it currently, but just start a small business mastermind group. Hey, you're running a small business. Maybe it's one of your vendors, your tech vendor, or your, the folks who bring, I don't know, supplies, or we have folks in the deposition world who come visit us. Like, let's get a bunch of people in a room or out to dinner and just talk about life and business. And what idea did you hear? What podcast are you listening to? What book are you reading? That's how you build a world when you have no money and you're starting out your practice. Like, you go out and you meet people.
If I can add a simple little tactical thing to that too, we'll call it the fourth foundational item. You mentioned it before. Create a Google business profile. They're free to set up.
100%, yeah.
Get some reviews on it. It's like a free digital billboard. You don't know who's going to see you when they type in PI attorney near me or work comp attorney near me. But I completely agree with those first three.
It's huge. Oh yeah, there's so many things that you can do with your Google business profile, and some of them are not very sophisticated. Like, just, hey, Bo, you called. I couldn't help you with your case, but I gave you a referral. I'm gonna, here's a link to go say something nice about me. And what I tell people is, I just want people to know that we'll try to help you. Like, Dan and his team are really friendly, and they're the unlawyers, right? People come here and they go, what is this place really? It's a law firm, but it really is a business where people will thrive. We just happen to be very good at the legal services as well, which is helpful.
So, Ben, I wanted to end this on a kind of question about mindset, because I know as a coach and mentor to other lawyers, you probably talk a lot about shift in mindset. So what are the common mindset shifts that you believe are essential for attorneys looking to grow their practices and improve their marketing efforts?
I think number one is that the best ideas are not going to be found in legal. So go outside of legal to find the best ideas for running a business. I think the second one, and this is a big problem with lawyers, is being able to let go of the vine. Hey, just because the person you're going to delegate, like your email inbox to, isn't you, and they won't do it exactly the way you do, doesn't mean that it shouldn't be delegated. We want to operate in our zone of genius. We want to spend most of our day. For me, it is one of two things. It's thinking creatively about a client's problem or opportunity, or in the coaching space, hearing from you. If you're a lawyer, tell me where you are, where you want to go. I'm going to help you figure out the next thing to do, either where to spend your next dollar or your next hour. But I can't do that if I think that I'm the only one, Bo, who can do all of the other things in a law firm. I'm the only one who can take a deposition, answer an interrogatory, talk to a client, talk to a vendor. Like, you have to be able to let go of that vine. And here's the key. For things that you're not good at or don't energize you, you know this. There's someone else in the world, and they don't have to be local, for whom that job would energize them and they would love to come work. That's why we have, I think, 6 or 7 this week in the Philippines. They make more money working for us than they do in the local economy, and they're working with a really cool bunch of people. And so it's win-win-win all around.
Totally agree. Ben, I just want to thank you for being on the podcast today. How can our listeners learn more about Ben Glass Law and Great Legal Marketing?
Yeah. So benglasslaw.com, greatlegalmarketing.com. I'm a frequent visitor to LinkedIn, so I'm easy to find. You can go on YouTube and type Ben Glass and referee and sportsmanship or lawyer or whatever, and you'll probably find some video. It could be a 20-year-old video, so you can get a good laugh.
Thank you again, Ben. And thank you everyone today for tuning in to this episode of the Pareto Legal Podcast. We'll see you next time for another episode.